Welcome to the Superhero Sidekick Leadership Coaching Podcast with Joel Smith and Joe Baker. We're here to help you develop your superpowers. This is the Superhero Sidekick Coaching Podcast. I'm Joel Smith.
I'm Joe Baker. We're not here to be the superhero. We just want to be your sidekick and help you along in building your business, building your not-for-profit. Let's help you grow it fast and really scale.
Be sure to check us out on Facebook and visit us at superherosidekick.com. Hello, everybody. This is the Superhero Sidekick Coaching Podcast. I am Joel Smith. I am the co-host along with my other guy, Joe Baker. He is a co-host as well. Joe, how you doing today?
Heck yeah, having a great day. I still got a broken ankle, but I'm getting out. I'm starting to put some weight on my right foot, and in no time I'll be rock climbing again.
Nice. Taking that kid out and breaking world records. That's awesome.
It's true.
So, Joe, you've got another buddy here in the virtual studio. Why don't you introduce him and tell us what we're going to talk about today?
Yeah, it's rare that we get a treat like this to get someone like Paul Fried on our podcast. This guy really could be one of the best recruiters in the whole country. His firm was actually rated the top executive search firm in the whole Midwest, and Forbes magazine actually called them the best at recruiting. And so Paul's been a mentor of mine and a friend of mine. We've rock climbed quite a few times, and he actually came to Zion National Park with me one time, and we went rappelling down some epic waterfalls. And so he's also, I want to say, he's a skier that just kind of gets up early in the morning and goes skiing all the time before work. And I'm really proud of him as just like an adventurer and friend in my life. But you know, as I have clients in all these different organizations and companies, I'd say in the top three, the biggest problems that they have are both, the people that they have. And usually we spend a lot of times talking about firing, but really the problem isn't the firing, it's the hiring. And that's why it's so important that we have a plan and a process to hire people well. And that's one thing that Paul Fried is the world-class expert on. And so with that, Paul, I'd love to just hear a little bit more about your firm and what you do every day. And then let's get into the mechanics and some coaching.
Hey, thanks, Joe and Joel. It's an honor to be on your podcast. And you are a great sidekick to many superheroes. So I love what you're doing and definitely a fan. So, and yes, I did survive Zion rock rappelling with you, and it was epic. So I have that in my garage, a big blown up poster. Reminds me of you. So keep up the great work. My day job, I spent the last 25 years doing executive search. So that means companies pay us to go hunt down their next CEO, VP sales, engineering, finance, marketing, whatever. We worked across a lot of industries, from tech startups to private equity, venture capital, public companies, nonprofits, and about 300 companies we've worked with the last 20 years as a firm. Why I say that is I see what works and what doesn't in recruiting. I have a unique front row seat, and I find what's missing from most companies is what I call the art of recruiting. And because a lot of people will say that talent is the most important resource, but I find that the follow-up on the recruiting side doesn't match.
Yeah, we've all heard of the art of the deal, but now it's the art of recruiting.
The art of recruiting is where it's at. So, and I think that really, if you as a business leader or maybe a volunteer leader or ministry leader want to accomplish something of significance, you kind of need to recruit people, right? You can't do it by yourself. We've all done that by ourselves for a while, and you get a certain point, you need people to come into your story. But recruiting is not taught in college. There's no course in recruiting. There's very, it's kind of a tribal concept of how you go about this. And so I'm here today to talk about that and give your listeners a few tips that are very practical and they can put to work right away.
Awesome.
So I want to kick things off here. Joe, tell me about the time you went to look for a house, like you and Ann, or maybe looking on Zillow at a house listing. Tell me kind of what separates the good house listings that you check out from house listings that you pass on.
Yeah, it's first of all, what the things that Ann wants in a house are pretty important. I was always looking for a view and a killer backyard. Ann's always looking at the kitchen and the master bathroom. And so she wants a decent tub and there's just a handful of things that we each kind of put on our want list and we start hunting.
So imagine like the same house. What would be an example of a really bad real estate agent? Like what it would look like and sound like, and what would a really top tier real estate agent make that same house look and sound like?
Yeah, it's really about like pitching it and having me imagine or dream that person, or I'm not that person. I'm already ahead of myself, but dreaming out the house. Like I would want to like envision myself sitting in the backyard roasting marshmallows with my kids, and imagining my wife having the perfect kitchen versus someone else who just kind of relays the facts.
Mm-hmm.
I think a good realtor would really do a good job of staging it, making it look real life instead of like just a hollow building.
So Joel, staging, what's the purpose of staging and why does it work?
Well, realtors stage their homes because the people that are looking for homes, they want to make a connection. They want to know what it would be like to live in that home, not what it would be like to walk through an empty building. And so they're looking for something that's going to give a sense of comfort, a sense of security, a sense of excitement, whatever that might be. And I think it's just important to really set the scene in a way that's going to ignite people's emotions and even the practical side too, just all angles.
So this is a recruiting show, not real estate show. It's like, why are we talking about house listings? So the reason why is house listings are to real estate what job descriptions are to recruiting. Just like in a house listing, you have a really bad real estate agent, have some really bad photos, really just facts, really boring description, and no staging. And a really good real estate agent will stage the house with pretty, furniture and art, and have a really emotional description about, imagine opening the doors up to having barbecues in your backyard, and like you can visualize being there, and maybe a video walkthrough, or you can really see and feel the house. And I think in a similar way with job descriptions, just like on Zillow, you kind of swipe left or right and what you're going to pick and what you're going to check out or not, which open house you'll check out. Candidates are doing the same thing. They're on Indeed.com, they're on job boards, they're checking out a company, and you only have a few seconds to catch their interest and attention. And so I think there's some stuff we can learn from that. I brought that up as an analogy I think people can relate to. And so the art of recruiting, this is what I've been teaching as a public speaker, but also as part of my business that helps us stand up from the pack. And I'm going to tell you, it just works. The stuff I'm going to show you is all free or cheap. And this is spending an extra hour on a job description will save you 20 hours, 40 hours later, because you're able to attract better people. You're able to save a lot of time and more efficient by not repeating yourself a lot. And on average, it's 50% faster time to hire and 50% less in-person interviews needed to fill the same spot with a great person. And so that's something that just works. That's what I encourage at a high level. House listings are like job descriptions, but it's worth the effort and the time. So I want to dive into that. And so it's almost like this visual I do. Like there's steak and sizzle. You've all kind of heard the steak and sizzle in a good story. And so the job descriptions that are all steak and very little sizzle are what I call kitchen sink. Meaning like here's these 20 soul-sucking tasks that you can do, but you don't know why. Are you interested? And that's a lot of HR, attend team meetings, give reports to the manager. And my favorite, other duties as assigned.
Yeah.
I mean, just sign me up for that one. I'm quitting my job. And so you don't want that. The other extreme, where it's all sizzle and no steak, I call ping pong, because it's like a lot of tech startups where there's photos of everyone playing ping pong and drinking beer in the office. And it's pretty much college. It's a big party and everyone's having fun, but you don't really know what they do. And so that's the overreaction you want to avoid. Then there's the sad, low steak and low sizzle. I call those Franken descriptions. It's companies that have the Project Manager 3 job description they've used for the last 20 years. And we sure hope we post it this time we'll get good people, but it doesn't even describe the job and it's not inspiring. So don't try to give life to an old dead job description you've used for 10 years. It's probably time to revisit that bad boy. But the one you want, obviously, is the right amount of steak and sizzle. And that's what I call a talent magnet. And that's where you're attracting people who are happy top of their game and not looking, and you're having that balance of the facts and the emotion. Like in the house listing, there's certain facts about bedrooms and square footage and flow, but there's emotion along with it too. So examples of some stake things you'll want to have in your job description could be like, how big's your company? Are you one person? Are you 20? Are you 100? Where's your office? Not just Boston, but like what neighborhood? What are you near? Can you visualize being in that office in a post-COVID world? And maybe like, who are your customers? Like what kind of customers do you work with? What's a typical deal look like? Are you privately held? Are you funded by someone? Who? Is there any track record or history? There's some real just kind of logical stuff that any candidate would want to know. But then there's sizzle things as well. You want to look at like, what's the emotion about the problem you're solving? Like, how do you make someone's life better with your solution? Or are you winning awards? Is someone saying that you're awesome? And it's much better to say someone else said we're awesome. Who are we to judge? It kind of has this humility inside. Video. I think when someone gets a video walkthrough of, whenever I have a CEO that will tell the story, let's say Joe, and Joe's saying, here's my company and here's where you work and what we're all about. And 60 seconds of Joe's energy in the lobby. And when I include that link in a job description, someone says, man, that guy Joe, he's so cool. I could totally work with him.
Yeah. And if it was Joe's video, we'd also get some shots of me and like 3 team members rock climbing too, and so, because we'd also want to like, I as the CEO would want to recruit the kind of people that would think that was cool.
Exactly. And part of this, you brought a good point up, Joe, is that not everyone is a good fit for your company or this job. I think there's this feeling sometimes companies like everyone should work for us, everyone should do this job. That's not true. I mean, it's like, so if your description about your organization or the role is actually offensive or very specific and actually screens out people, that's a good thing because you're actually getting closer to the mark of what you want. And so you think about like the questions when you're interviewing candidates and they keep asking the same questions over and over again. And so those are the ones you want to proactively just put in the job description. You're like, hey, you probably want to know about why the job exists. You probably want to know about what the team looks like. You probably want to know about what a typical week looks like. There's things that a candidate would ask. So by putting it in the job description, I found as a recruiter, this may just selfishly come on commission, my hour interview becomes a half-hour interview because they've already read everything. I don't need to repeat the same stuff.
Yeah. And so, I mean, like another aspect of that is a business needs to define their culture then too, and bring some definition to, are we the kind of company that likes to talk about football a lot? And is that kind of like who we are? Or is it the outdoorsy, we go snowboarding before work as, with a few team members? And so like the more you can define some of the fun aspects of the culture, I think also allows you to really kind of bring that to light. Is that true? Would you say?
Yes, absolutely. Joel, in your experience, like what are some stake or sizzle things you maybe use in your past hiring?
Yeah, what we do is we try to keep the job description to a minimum for the most part, but we also try to communicate what they have to gain by coming to work for us. We promote that we have a Truth and Leadership Academy, that they get ongoing leadership training every month directly from our academy that we created, and that we have that we use a servant leadership model, that our job is to serve our people up, and instead of from the top down, and so just something that gives them a taste that we are doing things we love, and people that work here love what they do, and here's why. I think that's been really helpful. I think early on in my ownership, I think I was pretty bland because I didn't know any better. So what I experienced was that we just kept, or maybe that I was using templates that came from corporate that were just boring, and I just thought that was the way to do it, and it just didn't yield anything. Nobody really got excited. And now when I have general managers that that come and apply for for a job with our company, they've already been sent links to some websites and some information, things that were about, blog articles and training videos and things and so they come kind of excited, like, oh, I love what you're doing with this and that. And so for us, it's about giving them something, a reason to believe that they're going to get a whole lot more than just their paycheck that's going to contribute towards them. And I think that's kind of what you were getting at too, that if people just see what their job description is and they're going to do these things and get paid this amount of money, there's not a lot of excitement there.
Now, just to build on what you said, Joel, I totally agree. Links, like you spend a lot of money to have a great looking website, use it. Like that's one of the simplest things you can do is have like 3 to 5 hyperlinks in your company overview that link to your story or customer portfolio or awards or culture, but just tell them where to go. Like if I don't know you, like what are the sites you want me to go to? And like just guide me a little bit. If the role reports to Tom, Tom Mason, VP Marketing, make Tom Mason's name a hyperlink to his LinkedIn profile. Because I'm going to do it anyway. But this will just help guide me to who he is and what his background and story is. And so the third thing is just about making this authentic and inspiring. And one thing I find when I sit down with a company hiring manager, CEO, or exec, typically when I hear someone describe the company or the role, it's pretty good. I'm like, okay, I'm leaning forward. I'm taking notes. It's interesting. It's engaging. They tell me why they're there, what they're doing, where they're going. Then I look at what HR gave me, and it's like soulless. It's boring. It's like, and so one of the tricks I do is I literally just write down what people told me. Like, I think that's a much better starting point to telling your story as a company or the role, is you just pretend we're talking across a cup of coffee, and it's like, hey, well, what's your company about? Why are you here? What are you doing? Why are you excited? What's this role about? What's this role do? Like, what you say next is probably better than what you have from HR to begin with. Like, that's a better starting point, because that's one of the assessments I do for a job description, is to take your job description, have someone sit across from you and read it out loud to them. And like, I would never say it to another human across the table for me. Like, well, that's a clue. Like, it needs to be an authentic voice. It needs to be conversational to an audience of one, not a megaphone yelling at the world or not some Souls HR checklist. It needs to be like a conversation, and it's okay not to be perfect English. It's okay to have a conversational flow to the feeling. And one thing about inspiring someone is what I call the hero, villain, and quest. A superhero sidekick, I thought you'd like this one.
Yeah.
But,
love it.
We just need some music to go with it.
Yeah.
We'll edit that in.
So with the hero, villain, and quest, what you want to do is invite someone to be a hero on your epic mission that matters. And so here's how that looks. The hero part is, I literally use this language. You could be a hero in year 1 by, and the top 3 outcomes for the job. It's very outcomes based. It's launch something, fix something, solve something. There's something that, like, a year from now, if you're doing a review on this role, what would make you most happy? Like, how do you know they're doing a good job? What would make you give them a raise? Like, what would you high five them for? And it's interesting. I'll do intake for a $250,000, executive role, and they can't answer that question. They spend a lot more time evaluating cell phone plans than asking what this key exec should actually be doing. And so having the outcome is like, what is it? How do you measure that? And why does that matter? You can do that in a sentence usually. What is it? How do you measure it? And why does that matter most? Because that's the job. All the other gobbledygook about typical dues, responsibilities, I even take those off my descriptions, because it's the typical stuff a controller does. But here's the mission. Be a hero. Like, solve this, fix this, create this. So that's the hero piece. And you can use that in your language. Come and join us to be a hero in the first year, because everyone kind of wants that in their heart. They want to feel like they're part of something. The next part is the villain. And I think most companies skip this step. And they say, we have a great solution. We have a great problem we solve. Like, they're always like solution based, but like, what's the problem? Like, what's the evil competitor that everyone hates? Or what's that pain that drove you to start the company in the first place? What's that something wrong in the world? Like, there's something that drives you. An example, one of my clients, they provide 401k rollovers to help start small businesses. They're a financial service company. they said, we're a financial service company with an innovative way to use your IRA, that's not exciting.
Yeah.
But they say, they talk about how they help empower entrepreneurs to launch their dreams.
Yeah, it sounds way better.
And so in the lobby of that company, there's photos of people saying, hey, I left Boeing, I have this new brewery I have, and him and his buddy, and they use their service to help make that happen. So it's these celebrating entrepreneurs and this dream, the American dream. That's what they're all about. We happen to have this financial thing we do. See the difference?
Yeah.
And the quest is that some mission that's more important than making money. And that kind of relates to what I talked about. But it's just there's some quest you're on. Like, where are you going? What are you trying to accomplish? And so because the quest obviously has to be related to the villain, right? Something better.
Well, there has something incredible to get over, and that's where the hero comes in. Yeah.
And so there literally is that hero villain quest framework that I think should be in a description. If you're a hero sidekick kind of culture, you can actually say that. If you don't, that's too uncomfortable for some people, then say you could be key outcomes in the first year, or a key mission we're on, or what's broken today that we're trying to fix. You can use different words, but you should definitely try to nail those in your story.
This is interesting, Paul. I was just listening to Donald Miller today when I was working out this morning. I'm running around a track listening to Donald talk about some of this stuff. And he talked about the hero, how we all want to be a hero. But he also used another role too.
There it is.
Yeah. This was Business Made Simple that I was reading. But he also talks about the guide. So you got the hero. The hero's out there to be significant. They want to do something big. They want to be significant, but they can't do it without a guide also. And oftentimes the guide is the one that's behind the empowerment of the hero. The guide is the, Mr. Miyagi. It's the Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's the, whoever in all the stories that's that. And it reminded me when I was listening to that this morning, it reminded me of the superhero sidekick theme. It's like, we don't want to be the hero. We want to be the sidekick. And I think there's really something to that. And everybody wants to start off as being a hero, but then there's another step after that. Once you're a hero and you learn how to make a difference, well, then at some point it's going to be time for you to become a guide where you're creating heroes, and the cycle continues where you're becoming a leader of leaders. And so maybe talk about that, Paul. How do you see that playing out with recruiting as well?
I'm a huge believer in that. I think the classic mistake companies make is they say they're the hero. And in the end, the customer wants to be the hero. Like, hey, you're the hero marketing manager, and our software can make you look good because we get you more leads, or hey, you're the hero, And so you try to make them look at the hero. You can be a hero in the story as an individual, but you're trying to make the ultimate hero of the story should be your client, your customer, and that your role is to be a guide. And so as a recruiter, that's what I'll do with them. I was like, I'm here as a guide, with the company to help in the process to find a good person. And with candidates, I'm guiding them on their due diligence to see if it's a good fit or not, personally and professionally. But in the end, I'm not trying to be the hero here. See, I'm just trying to guide this process.
Yeah.
And so I think that's an important it's a humble, but I think it's an important framework in the tonality and a role you play in this big story.
Yeah, because you're calling forth the hero and helping drawing out the hero and training the hero and equipping the hero. It's like the guide has a lot of great aspects to it that really empower the hero to and then they want to achieve the job. They want to be successful at it. They get excited about it.
And a guide can work with a whole lot of heroes at one time. It's better be a guide putting the energy and the empowerment behind a dozen heroes than it is just being one hero. Mm-hmm. You accomplish so much more. You can scale it to whatever level you need to.
So for descriptions, my encouragement is take a look at your job description you have now that is the number one role you're hiring, and go through this process. And actually, I can give you a link where actually it's more of a detailed walkthrough. You can go through this process, but to think about our conversation about how to make it more inspiring, the steak and the sizzle, what kind of images could you put on the description? What kind of links could you put on it? All free stuff. But I guarantee you the 1 hour you spend will save you 20 or 40 because you're gonna inspire better people to consider your company. You're gonna have more efficient, focused conversations because you actually know what you want and it's clear. And here's the cool part too, is those outcomes we talked about, that's your onboarding. Because most people hate reviews because no one really knew what they're supposed to be doing. But if you tell them what they're supposed to be doing, it's pretty clear, like 90 days, 1 year. But I want to do a bonus segment, if it's okay, on just nonprofit or volunteer recruiting, because a lot of the same attributes you need to do, whether it's a big role, executive or entry-level role, they're still humans. And that's the mistake people make, is there's a 3-page great description for a VP of finance, and there's like 2 sentences for a warehouse worker. And I think they're still humans who want to know what the story is and why it's great and why it should be there. For volunteer roles, in a similar way, I think they want to connect with the mission. Like, what are you doing? Where are you going? And then how does this role fit into the big picture, and why does it matter? And so you could tell someone, we need someone to serve coffee on Sunday. Okay, I'll sit here and serve coffee. But if you say, hey, you're the first impression of a visitor who may choose to be part of the community and learn, have a life-changing experience or not, you might make the difference. You are, but see, it empowers someone to stand up a little taller and engage a little more. And like, that's your role. The coffee happens to be the excuse you're having this interaction. But I think you can elevate the importance of a role and how it fits into the mission. That's one trick. The second trick is encourage people to shadow. And people are always kind of curious, like, what's it like? Well, don't have anyone commit to a role. Just come shadow me one day or for one session. See if you like children's ministry. See if you actually want to do this phone center or whatever. So you get a chance to shadow. It helps people know if it's a fit or not. And that's good for everyone, because it might not be a fit from both sides. It's a mutual thing. It's not just a one way. And the third part is have very clear end dates to the volunteer roles. The classic mistake is you have someone join to do some function until you die. And that's not really the intent, but it always feels awkward if they quit the role, and they want to switch. But instead, if you have like 6-month terms, like, hey, for 6 months, could you do this? And then we'll evaluate if you want another 6 months or if you want to switch roles, but it gives an excuse. It feels okay to switch or pivot. That's my experience on the volunteer side, because they're harder than paid jobs, but I think the same principles apply.
Yeah, that's true. And it is a difficult task for most every church, struggles with that to some degree. And I would say across the board, most churches just don't have enough volunteers overall. I haven't seen too many that have too many volunteers. And so definitely a challenge. But I also don't see a lot of job descriptions for volunteers in the church. I think it's a word of mouth type of thing, and maybe it's in the bulletin. It kind of is a cry for help. We got to close down some, a couple of classes because we don't have anybody. Please, somebody, But to your point, I think we need to really use these techniques as churches and
the problem with the churches, Joel, is that they don't have inspiring roles. It's like, we need someone to sign up and hand out bulletins. We need someone to carry some babies. It's like, they should have roles in the church, like, hey, we need someone to coach some young people on how to build a business. We need some people that do this big, dangerous or difficult thing in the community. It's like, we need better, more inspiring roles.
We need
to invite people into.
Go out and make it, to go serve people and clean up.
It should feel like we're going to the North Pole or something. Like we should have some inspiring, exciting projects to do as a church.
Yeah, that's right.
I think that I tell my people in ministry that you don't have a volunteer problem. You have a vision and communication problem.
That's right.
The verse everyone likes to talk about is, well, the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. Yeah. But they don't go past that. That's almost like a hugging verse for, like, we can't find good volunteers or leaders. But I said, well, you know what the next sentence is? And they're like, no. I says, well, pray to the Lord of the harvest to bring workers into your field.
Yeah.
And there is, I don't know if it's correlation or causation, but in my experience, when leaders have prayed to have people step up and volunteer, there is a sudden interest in some people's hearts that happen in the next week. And so I challenge people, if that is something they're working with, to give it a go and an A/B test how that worked that week. And I do think that there's power and answers to prayer.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm praying for a killer intern that They can help me build Superhero Sidekick for me training them to be a leader. And so
Sounds great.
Pray for that.
Hey, Paul, we really appreciate your time. This has been terrific. We'll post your outline on the show notes so everyone can see that too. Do you have any additional thoughts here on recruiting?
Just in closing, one that separates the good from the great leaders is the ability to recruit talent. And so if you are a leader, this is an area I think that'll help you get to the next level. If you're aspiring to be a leader, investing in this is a great use of your time. And it's taking sales and marketing concepts, but applying it to hiring. And I think it's definitely time well spent. It's been an honor to talk with you guys, and I hope this is helpful for your listeners.
Yeah, this is great. So, Paul, we ask one last question in each of our episodes here. So, what is the one superpower that you have that's helped you make a difference with companies?
Great question. The superpower I've helped with companies is this, actually. There is a service of getting someone a new VP of engineering, but I like to teach them the art of recruiting and kind of show them through this process of what we did. That's their job description looks different. The process looks different. The candidates all leave wanting to work there and they pick the winner. I show them a taste of how investing in the storytelling and the art of recruiting really does inspire better people. And because most companies spend way too much time over assessing mediocre talent versus just trying to get the ones you want.
Great thought.
Wow.
All right. So if you're out there and you want to hear more, Paul, how would they get a hold of you if they want to learn more about what you do?
Just Paul at herdfreedhartz.com. That's HERDFREEDHARTZ.com. I live here in Bend, Oregon. My company's headquartered in Seattle. And but just happy to connect and help out anyway.
Excellent.
Thank you, man.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you listening, and we'll see you next time.